In the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read the ancient tomes. The order of the Abracast. We are the brave and the bold. The Abracast. Occult, history, conspiracy, and violence.
All right, welcome to the Abracast. I'm John Towers. This was a listener, actually, this was a supporter, a guy who has a degree in the Order of the Fellow Craft suggestion. So shout out to my boy, Filthy McNasty. I hope you are enjoying this thing, sir. Tonight we're going to finish up this Mandela Effect business. In the first part, we worked very hard to define the Mandela Effect, and we looked at two of the three theories regarding the effect, namely the idea that there are parallel universes that are slightly different than our own universe, and that we are weaving through these universes, or we are living in a computer simulation. Another one is that somebody is going back in time and altering small, often meaningless, minute details, and in either case causing large amounts of people, when confronted with evidence different than evidence of things that are different than what they remember it, these people must either accept that we are misremembering these details, or they must come to the understanding that either parallel universes are colliding, causing a cartoon monkey from the 40s to lose its fucking tail, or that nefarious agents with advanced technology are going back in time, switching the colors of the Pepsi logo. Okay, so I'm going to commit to this thing. We're going to take this thing seriously for a little bit. If these changes are caused by the alteration of our past timeline, who might be in fact traveling to our past and changing these items? I'm not going to give you the featured sites up front tonight, because I feel like it'll give it away. So I'll call out the articles as I jump back and forth to them. So if you are playing at home, now is the time to charge your vessel of the art and mix your weapon of mass distraction up. Whatever your weapon of mass distraction is. Mine currently is a Jin Jihad. So there's to you guys, and I'm going to take a second to thank our supporters, thank our Patreon and Subscribe Star people that are out there. Holler at your boys. With your help, I've been fixing some stuff. You might be able to tell I fixed the pulsing that's usually present in the background of the recordings. Thank you very much. We got some new voiceovers. So thank you very much. We got some new drones. That is all thanks to our fellow craft supporters, and I think we got one or two Knights of the Vessel of the Art supporters out there. So if you're interested in supporting the show, check out Subscribe Star Patreon. The best place you can go is probably just abracast.com and go to the degrees section. It kind of lays it all out for you there. So the question is who is traveling to our past to change these items? And you will find out that there are two main suspects. And one of them happens to be my gateway topic into this stuff. So I've always had an interest in like UFOs and Bigfoots and all of that stuff. But sometime in the summer of 1995, I guess, me and a few of my Army buddies got my boy Fett's Honda Civic stuck on a beach, and instead of fucking around with it, we actually found a psychic fair. We walked from the beach to a psychic fair where I purchased a book called The Montauk Project: Experiments in Time by Peter Moon and Preston B. Nichols. So according to Amazon, according to the Amazon entry, this is what the book is about. Hold on. This is what the book is about. Discover the truth about time. This book chronicles the most amazing and secretive research project in recorded history. We all know that something is out there. We're just not sure exactly what. This book begins to provide some solid clues. So, this is the first of the Montauk trilogy, which includes Montauk Revisited and Montauk Revisited, Adventures in Synchronicity, and Pyramids of Montauk, Explorations in Consciousness. So I am not going to do a book report on this book. And as a matter of fact, I'm not even sure my book is here. That's not to say that I lost my book. I am just saying that I gave it to my buddy David Fairhead, and even though I see it in his studio library, he refuses to acknowledge that it is mine. So I should maybe put that on my list of things to do. Liberate my Montauk book from Fairly Dark Productions. Okay, so the long and the short of this book, the long and the short of this book is, now, so I need to differentiate this version of the story in this book because there are many variations, add-ons, spin-offs, and prequel tales told about what was to become known as the Philadelphia experiment. So, in this book, during World War II, 1943, at the Philadelphia shipyards, the military, I think there were some magicians there and some mad scientists were working to make this Navy destroyer, the USS Eldridge. They were trying to render it invisible using these Tesla coils and all this voodoo science. So they put this electromagnetic bubble around the ship, and it actually accidentally teleported the ship through space-time, and the ship ended up in Norfolk, Virginia, over like 200 miles away. And then it zapped back to Philadelphia, and the men aboard were a mess. And the ship wound up like losing 10 minutes of time. And there were sailors like embedded in the hull, like the hull of the ship. And guys were like throwing up everywhere. Anyhow, this technology led to experiments taking place at a place called Camp Hero in Montauk, New York, and they had this giant radar dish that they would use to do all this weird experimentation with, and eventually they had this Montauk chair where they could send people through, well, forwards and backwards in time, and they were sending people to like Mars, and they found this fucking giant black statue of a horse, which is like the cool illustration that's on the front of the book anyways. Anyhow, the book ends when they use this chair and this radar dish to summon or manifest like a demon or a monster who like rampaged through this military installation. So I think you can see where we're going with this. This secret techno slash wizard slash military cabal that is using this exotic and possibly alien or extra-dimensional technology to send nefarious agents back in time to alter the fabric of space-time, the fabric of reality itself, to swap the colors of the Pepsi logo. I really should do Montauk because they just had a study and they found one of the outbuildings, like one of the compounds at Camp Hero, had this weird patterns painted on the walls of it, and it was correspondent with patterns on the walls of a Russian secret experimental site. And there's reasons to believe that this was actually a place where they were doing MK Ultra testing. It was on like History or something, but it looked pretty credible. You know, I bang on the History Channel often, but this one looked like it was pretty credible. And we're always interested in MK Ultra stuff. Okay, so who is another candidate for these people that are going back in time and messing with these items? And of course, it's the Nazis. Actually, I think I'm going to stop calling them Nazis, and I'm going to start calling them National Socialist German Workers' Party. They might be involved with this time travel shenanigans. Look, this is very modern History Channel. Like, we were just talking about the History Channel, and then I'm going to slide right into beating up on it. But bullshit. But here we go. During World War II, Hitler had these scientists working on an anti-gravity machine. It was called the Bell or the Glocke. It was like this acorn shape or bell shaped craft, and it had this vortex engine or something that circulated mercury and caused some sort of anti-gravity field. And when the shit hit the fan after the war, no one could find the thing. And some folks say that, you know, the National Socialist German Workers' Party flew the craft into a secret base in Antarctica or the fucking moon. Or some people speculated that it time traveled to Kecksburg, Pennsylvania and crashed in 1965, where it was recovered by the U.S. Army. So I guess the speculation is that the Nazis have time travel capability, the National Socialist German Workers' Party have time travel capabilities. Or, you know, maybe it's the U.S. Army after they recovered the Glocke, the National Socialist German Workers' Party's craft, I guess. And they use this miraculously advanced technology to travel backwards through time, not to rescue Hitler, not to destroy the Russians in Stalingrad, not to change the outcome of the Allies landing in Normandy, not to go back and steal the secret plans on how to build the H-bomb, not to go back to execute a young and helpless George S. Patton as an infant. No, they are risking their lives and risking a cascading collapse of the fragile quantum foundations of our universe is built on, to change the spelling of the last name of a family of cartoon bears. All right, we're going to jump over to this article called Parallel Universes, Theories and Evidence by Elizabeth Howell, May 10th, 2018. Arguing against a parallel universe. This is the third option, by the way. This is the third option. The third option is there are no parallel universes. The key problem... not everyone agrees with parallel universe theory. However, a 2015 article on Medium by astrophysicist Ethan Siegel agreed that space-time could go on forever in theory. but said that there are some limitations to that idea. The key problem is the universe is just under 14 billion years old, so our universe's age itself is obviously not infinite, but finite amount. This would, simply put, limit the number of possibilities for particles to rearrange themselves, and sadly make it less possible that your alternate self did get on that plane, after all, to see China. Also, the expansion at the beginning of the universe took place exponentially because there was so much energy inherent in space, or inherent to space itself. He said, but over time, the inflation obviously slowed, and those particles of matter created at the Big Bang were not continued to expand, he pointed out. Among his conclusions, that means the multiverse would have different rates of inflations in different times, longer or shorter for the inflation. This decreases the possibilities of the universe similar to our own. Even setting aside issues that there may be an infinite number of possible values for fundamental constants, particles and interactions, and even these set aside interpretation issues such as whether the many worlds interpretation actually describes our physical reality, Siegel said. The fact of the matter is that the number of possible outcomes rises so quickly, so much faster than merely exponentially, that unless inflation has been occurring for a truly infinite amount of time, there are no parallel universes identical to this one. But rather than seeing this lack of other universes as a limitation, Siegel instead takes the philosophy that it shows how important it is to celebrate being unique. He advises to make the choice that works for you, which leaves you with no regrets. That's because there are no other realities where the choice of your dream self play out. You, therefore, are the only person that can make those choices happen.
Learn more at abracast.com. Get bonus content and access to the private Abracast workgroup by signing up for the mailing list. Get all that plus many exclusive episodes by supporting the show at patreon.com or subscribestar.com.
The Mandela Effect and How Your Mind is Playing Tricks on You. February 12th, 2018, by Neil Dignall and Ken Drinkwater. Have you ever been convinced that something is a particular way only to discover you've remembered it all wrong? If so, it sounds like you've experienced the phenomenon known as the Mandela Effect. This form of collective misremembering of common events or details first emerged in 2010 when countless people on the internet falsely remembered that Nelson Mandela was dead. It was widely believed that he had died in prison during the 1980s. In reality, Mandela was actually freed in 1990 and passed away in 2013, despite some people's claims that they remember clips of his funeral on television. Paranormal consultant Fiona Broom coined the term Mandela Effect to explain this collective misremembering, and then other examples started popping up all over the internet. For instance, it was wrongly recalled that C-3PO from R2-D2 was gold. Actually, one of his legs is silver. That's why that I remember it. I remember his leg being silver. Likewise, people often wrongly believe that the Queen in Snow White says, "Mirror, mirror on the wall," when the correct phrase is "magic mirror on the wall." Broom explains the Mandela Effect, the pseudo-scientific theories. She claims the differences arise from a movement between parallel realities, the multiverse. This is based on the theory that within each universe, alternate versions of events and objects exist. Broom also draws comparisons between the existence of the holodeck of the USS Enterprise from Star Trek. The holodeck was a virtual reality system which created recreational experiences. By her explanation, the memory errors are software glitches. This is explained as being similar to the film The Matrix. Other theories propose that the Mandela Effect evidences change in history caused by time travelers. And there are claims that these distortions result from spiritual attacks linked to Satan, black magic, or witchcraft. But although appealing to many, these theories are not scientifically testable. So where is the science? Psychologists explain the Mandela Effect via memory and social effects, particularly false memory. This involves mistakenly recalling events or experiences that have not occurred, or distortion of existing memories. These or the unconscious manufacture of fabricated or misinterpreted memories is called confabulation. In everyday life, confabulation is relatively common. False memories occur in a number of ways. For instance, the Deese, Roediger, and McDermott paradigm demonstrates how learning a list of words that contain closely related items, such as bed and pillow, produces false recognition of related but not presented words, such as sleep. Memory inaccuracy can also arise from what is known as source monitoring errors. These are instances where people fail to distinguish between real and imagined events. I think that's a typo. Real and imagined even. It makes more sense if it's real and imagined events. U.S. professor of psychology Jim Cohen demonstrated how easily this could happen using the, quote, lost in the mail, unquote, procedure. When Cohen gives his family members short narratives describing childhood events, one about his brother getting lost in a shopping mall was invented. Not only did Cohen's brother believe the event occurred, lost in the mall procedure. Jesus. This saw Cohen give his family members short U.S. professor of psychology Jim Cohen demonstrated how easily this could happen using the lost in the mall procedure. This saw Cohen give his family members short narratives describing childhood events. One about his brother getting lost in a shopping mall was invented. Not only did Cohen's brother believe the event occurred, but he added additional detail. When cognitive psychologists and experts on human memory, Elizabeth Loftus, applied the technique to larger samples, 25% of participants failed to recognize the event was false. I mean, just take a second and I spent a large portion of my life doing event security. So when the shit goes down and you're like interviewing people, like, okay, who threw the first punch? Okay, who did this? Okay, who did that? Like what? Like you got your little notebook out. Not. But if it was in the sense of a fight, it didn't matter. There's a zero tolerance policy because literally we can't call back the tapes on every fucking thing to figure out what happened. But just, working there just for a few games and talking to people, I dealt mostly with Major League Baseball and the National Football League games, and concert promoters. But, interviewing or talking to people for a large group of people long enough about a specific event, and you will find out that people's memories are shit. Like, it's just shit. That's just the way it is. That's just my 2 cents to it. People's memories are bullshit. It's actually not really even just their memories. It's just their situational awareness, their powers of observation. I think all that stuff figures into it, just like it would figure into this, I guess. All right, back to it. Incorrect recall. When it comes to the Mandela Effect, many examples are attributable to so-called schema-driven errors. Schemas are organized packets of knowledge that direct memory. In this way, schema facilitates understanding of material, but can produce distortions. Frederick Bartlett outlined this process in a 1932 book called Remembering. Bartlett read the Canadian Indian folktale War of the Ghost to participants. He found that listeners omitted unfamiliar details and transformed information to make it more understandable. This process is called effort and meaning. And occurs in the real world situations too. For instance, research has previously shown how when participants recall the contents of a psychologist's office, they tend to remember the consistent items, such as bookshelves, and omit the inconsistent items, like a picnic basket. Schema theory explains why previous research shows that when the majority of participants are asked to draw a clock face from memory, they mistakenly draw IV rather than I. What? People do this? Clocks often use I because it is more attractive. Okay, I'm going to have to start paying attention to that shit. Other examples on the Mandela Effect are the mistaken belief that Uncle Pennybags I didn't know his name was Uncle Pennybags. That's the Monopoly man. Wears a monocle. And the product title Kit Kat contains a hyphen, kit-cat. But this is simply explained by overgeneralization of spelling knowledge. Back to life, back to reality. Frequently reported errors can then become part of collective reality, and the internet can reinforce this process by circulating false information. For example, simulations of the 1997 Princess Diana car crash are regularly mistaken for real footage. In this way, then the majority of Mandela effects are attributable to memory errors and social misinformation. And the fact that a lot of the inaccuracies are trivial suggests that they result from selective attention or faulty influence. This is not to say the Mandela effect is not explicable in terms of the multiverse. Indeed, the notion of parallel universes is consistent with the work of quantum physicists. But until the existence of alternate realities is established, psychological theories appear much more plausible. So I really like this false memory stuff. And I went and I found another cool article. It's called What is the Mandela Effect by Stephen Gans from on verywellmind.com. Goes on to say a more likely explanation for the Mandela effect involves false memories. Before we consider what is meant by false memories, let's look at an example of the Mandela Effect, as it will help us to understand how memory can be faulty and may lead to the phenomenon that we are describing. So I ask you, who is Alexander Hamilton? Most Americans learned in school that he was a founding father of the United States of America, but that he was not a president. However, when asked about the presidents of the United States, many people mistakenly believe that Hamilton was a president. Why? If we consider simple neuroscience explanations, the memory for Alexander Hamilton is encoded in an area of the brain where the memories for the presidents of the United States are stored. That means by which memory traces are stored is called the engram, and the framework in which similar memories are associated to each other is called the schema. So people try to recall Hamilton. This sets off the neurons in close connection to each other, bringing with it the memory of the presidents. Although this is an oversimplified explanation, it illustrates the general processes. When the memories are recalled rather than remembering perfectly, they are influenced not to the point where they can eventually become incorrect. In this way, memory is unreliable and not infallible. This leads to the likelihood that problems with memory and not alternate universes are the explanation for the Mandela Effect. In fact, there are a number of subtopics related to the memory that may play a role in this phenomenon. Memory-related concepts like post-event information that you learn after an event can change your memory of an event. This includes event subtle information that helps to explain why eyewitness testimony can be unreliable, a topic we just talked about. Priming refers to factors that happen before an event affecting your recall of an event. For example, studies have shown that suggestions made by a researcher can affect participants' recall. Priming is also called suggestibility and presupposition. For instance, if you ask how short a person is, this influences people's answers differently than if you ask how tall a person is. If you ask, did you see that black car, instead of did you see a black car, you are making a suggestion that affects how people respond. In this way, misinformation affects your existing memories. In essence, the memories are vulnerable bits of information stored in the brain that can be changed over time. While we assume that our memories are accurate, this is not necessarily the case. Confabulation involves your brain filling in gaps that are missing in your memories to make more sense of them. This is not lying, but rather remembering details that never happened. Confabulation tends to increase with age. Role of the internet. The role of the internet in influencing the memory of the masses should not be underestimated. I'm actually going to drink to that because I have some things to think about that. The internet is a powerful way to spread information. And with this spreading of information comes the potential for misconceptions and falsehoods to gain traction. People then begin to create communities based around these falsehoods. And what was once in the imagination starts to seem factual. In fact, a recent large study published in Science, over 100,000 news stories discussed across Twitter had been contested over a period of 10 years, and it was shown that hoaxes and rumors won out over the truth every time by about 70%. That wasn't the result of manipulation or bots or the Russians either. The real verified accounts of real people were responsible for spreading false information. This notion of speed with which false information spreads on the internet cannot help to explain the Mandela effect. As each person chimes in with their own experience or memory of an event, those false memories could affect the memories of other people, thus coloring them to remember the events in the same way. So I'm sorry the show's going to be slightly shorter than normal, but I think this is a good place to wrap up because I'm not exactly sure how to end this examination into the Mandela effect. I mean, I think my general thoughts are pretty clear, but I think there is actually a little bit more to it. I think the propagation of this effect is actually saying something about our culture or maybe modern people. I'm not sure if this is a millennial thing or not, but so, okay, so here, hold on. Let me get real here for a second. If we'll just say if someone came to me, I'm a classic Star Wars fan. I spent probably years of my life literally playing make-believe in the world created by George Lucas with toy blasters, with action figures, with video games, with comic books. Literally, it was an integral part of my identity until J.J. Abrams and Disney. That is to say, someone came up to me and said, hey, buddy, Darth Vader never says, Luke, I am your father, right? In Empire. And I would be like, yeah, he did. I might say this. I might say, yeah, he did. Then I might queue up my DVD and go find it. And then when Darth Vader actually says, quote, no, I am your father, unquote, I would be like, I might be like, but there it is. Maybe I was wrong. But then somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm like, I might have been like, no, maybe that was some arbitrary thing Lucas changed in the special edition. So then I might have gone and gotten my original release VHS tape and popped it in and fast forwarded to the end. And then I might have heard there Vader say, quote, no, I am your father, unquote. Okay, man, that's weird. I could have swore after all these years it was Luke, I am your father, but whatever. And that's the end of it. I think that there are so many people when confronted with evidence that their memory is screwed on something that is ultimately insignificant, has zero effect on their lives, will dig their heels in, and instead of coming to terms with a function of their biologic neurology, which we heard about, or their perceived flaw in their psychology, which we read about, literally have to believe the only way they can possibly be wrong is to believe that there are multiverses that are colliding with each other or that people are going back in time and altering history. Maybe this is another aspect to our robust political division these days, or at least how we treat one another when confronted with people that have political beliefs other than our own. That's just a thought. I don't have any reading to back that up, but that's just a thought. So, like I said, I don't know if this is a millennial thing. I don't know if this is a boomer thing. I just don't know, but. It's odd that when presented with proof of misremembering, people are like, no, I couldn't have possibly misremembered this. This is evidence that fucking multiverses are colliding. All right. I am John Towers, and this has been the Abercast. Thank you to the supporters of the show. If you are interested, check out the degrees page on abercast.com. And where's Hilla at? Here she is.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Send an email or visit us on social media to let us know what you think about this topic. And please remember to leave a 5-star rate and review.
Hey, check out this month's Fellowcraft episode. It's all about the lessons of Zarathustra. Check out this clip. All right, so listen to these two statements juxtaposed. On the new idol, the state has become the new idol that the masses worship. It encourages uniformity and mediocrity, pandering to the masses, and freedom can only be found outside the confines of the state. Now listen to this statement. By the same organization, if not the same fucking writer, on enjoying the suffering and the passions, which was the first speech that we spoke about this evening. We learn and grow most from our moments of suffering and intense feeling, and they make us unique. And they should not be shared for fear of losing one's uniqueness. And someone who is driven by more than one intense passion will suffer inner conflict. No, back to this existentialism paper. No one is allowed to be a creator and no one is allowed to be original. Think of unplatforming, demoting videos on YouTube. Think about, we've called it like the modern book burning movement. I'm sure there's another snappy word for it. Think about that. The difference is not tolerated in the state. The Daleks do not. Okay. Difference is not tolerated in the state. Difference is not tolerated by the Dalek. The state turns the people into the last human. Only where the state ends can the overman begin. This Fellowcraft episode and many more are available at subscribestar.com/abracast. The Fellowcraft tier it's only $3 a month, guys.